Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. Website, of course, thisweekinamerica.us. As mentioned, our special guest is Kathleen Brady, CPC. She's an IPEC certified career management coach, more than 25 years of experience helping people identify and realize their professional career goals. She's the author of the book, Get a Job, 10 Steps to Career Success. Kathleen, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us.
Oh, great to be here, Rick. Thanks for having me.
So many things to talk about, and the book is designed basically for everybody, whether you're looking for your first job or looking for a mid-career change. And I talked about, in the open, helping people identify their career dreams. Let's talk about your case specifically, because you're interesting in that, like so many of us, we sort of found our niche and then realized this maybe isn't what we're after. It took you a couple of times before you actually found something that you really liked.
Absolutely. And you've got to not be afraid to reinvent yourself along the way. So it's about, it's interesting. I never define any of the things I've done as mistakes. I define them as, okay, I learned something from that experience. That wasn't quite it. So how do I take that and build on it and get to the next step? And every experience I had to date kind of has led me to this moment. And I think I started out as a social worker. I went to social work school, and I was just so unhappy in social work. I often refer to those as my dark days. It was just not right for me. And I remember one day was just saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to finish with, maybe a semester left to go. And I established what I like to refer to as the Take Kathy Brady to Lunch Club. I went out with friends and friends of friends, and just, at the time I didn't call it networking because I didn't realize that's what it was, but I just asked people, well, what do you do, and how did you get started, and here are the skills I have, or here are the things I like to do, and what ideas do you have? And they would say, oh, you should think about this, you should think about that. And I went and met with someone at Columbia Law School who was in their HR department, and she said, your training as a social worker in counseling would be great in career services, and we have an opening here at Columbia. Would you be interested in working for the law school? I said, yeah, it'd be great. And so it started out there. I started Columbia Law School, and then it was fine, and I loved it because it was sort of normal hours and surrounded by incredibly smart people. But that particular job was a little bit too administrative for me, and not as much counseling as I would have liked. Right. And then I met someone from Fordham, and she said, we've got a job for you. And still building on the administration stuff, I ran their on-campus interview program, but then got to counsel more people and used those skills. And that was incredibly fun for me. That was one of the best jobs I ever had, working at Fordham, and stayed there for 12 years, going from an assistant director all the way up to the dean of the office. So that was, just a great experience. And then I got to a point of just thinking, I can't do this anymore. At the time I was, I guess, in my 30s, and I thought, I can't see myself doing this for another 25, 30 years. So what else can I do? And I remember at the time I called a couple of key people. And again, I said, I don't have a particular job title in mind, but I know that I'm a very good public speaker and advocate. So my next job needs that. I'm a very good counselor, and I'm really organized. So I can handle administrative pieces. What ideas do you have? And again, he sort of introduced me to a number of different people, and I got a job teaching public speaking skills to others in a small business. And that was fabulous. I learned about running a business and being very entrepreneurial. But again, that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. So I went and used that skill set working at went back into the law firm world. And I did recruiting and professional development on the employer side. And I did that for a number of years until I said, you know what, this isn't exactly right either. I don't like the work environment. Law firms are very difficult places to work.
Yes, I imagine fairly rigid as well.
Yeah, they're a little tough.
Yeah.
And so then I said, well, you know what? The firm that I was at the time, they were they were fabulous to me, because I said, I really miss the counseling. There's not enough of that here. they allowed me to go part-time while I started to build my business. So I was there for maybe 6 months part-time while I was building my business. And then I finally just said, okay, I think I can do this now, and kind of pulled the cord, and I've been doing this for 10 years now. So I do a combination of one-on-one counseling with people. I do professional development training programs. I write books. So it really is all of those things that I was able to do at all those different points have all come together for this to allow me to build my business.
You're listening to This Week in America. Our guest on the program is Kathleen Brady. She's the author of the book, Get a Job, 10 Steps to Career Success. Her website is careerplanners.net. You can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on, got all that information, get all the information on the book. The book's available at Amazon all across the country. You said something interesting there, and you focus on that pretty much at the beginning of the book, that sort of self-assessment. Is that where it all begins, is to sit down and to figure out, okay, this is where I want to go? In fact, you said something, and it seems so simple, and I'm not sure that people really understand it. You have the power to create the career and the life you want. So sit down, determine where you want to be, and then around that, put your job, put your occupation.
It's absolutely true, and that is the step everybody misses because they think it's too hard or it's too much of a luxury. I just need to find a job.
Oh, yes. You
can't find a job if you don't know what it is that you have to offer and what it is that you want, because we are fueled by our passions. So when you know what you like to do, it's about finding somebody who wants to pay you to do that, as opposed to trying to fit what the employer wants you to do. I mean, there's always going to be. I mean, even running my own business, there's parts of the job that I would prefer not to do if I didn't have to do. But so there's always going to be something that you don't love. But what the trick is to spend 80% of your time doing the things that you love, maybe 20% doing the stuff that you don't like quite as much. It's when you do it the other way around that so many people do, because that's what they think makes sense, or that's what they're supposed to do. It doesn't work. It's you really do have the power, and it's about setting your sights and saying, I believe I can do this. And I always say, strive to be the exception to the rule. I became an assistant dean of a law school without a law degree. That's not, if I had bought into the, oh, well, you don't have a law degree, you can't be an assistant dean, and I just accepted that, I would have not, I wouldn't have excelled and done the things I'd done. But I just said, well, why not? Here's what I can do. Here's what I bring to the party. And I'm, this is the value. And people said, yeah, you're right. I'm very proud of the fact that I mean, if you ask anybody else, I was a leader in my profession. I was president of a national association. I mean, to this day, people in the legal community know my name. They know who I am. And it wasn't supposed to be, because I don't have a law degree.
Kathleen's book is called Get a Job, 10 Steps to Career Success. The nice thing, and you pointed out in the book, use it like a travel guide. You go through, skim through it so you know what's in there, and then go back and pull out those sections that you can refer to that apply to you. And the other thing you say about using it as a travel guide, you make the comment, most of us spend more time planning like a weekend vacation than we actually plan our career path.
Right, you're absolutely right. It's so true. We get all the books, and we do all the research, and we talk to people, and we say, I'm going to Paris, where should I stay, where should I eat, and we collect all this data. And the most important journey of our life, we spend no time. We just kind of wake up and say, oh, I'll just see where it takes me, and we do it by trial and error. You'd never go to Europe that way.
Right.
Just get on a plane and go. So take the time and just think it through, and not so much that you have to be rigid in this is exactly what I'm going to do. You want to have a focused but flexible plan. So you just kind of think through, what do I want my life to look like? How do I want all the pieces to fit together? And then what do I have to do to make that happen?
Well, and you say in making it happen, we really need to set aside a specific time to look. And it's a different amount of time. You talk about whether we're looking for a mid-career change, we're actually working, whether we're unemployed. Talk about that, setting aside a time where, okay, this is the time of day that I'm going to actually look for something.
Right. It's like anything else, you have to have a plan, and you have to make a commitment to it. So what oftentimes people will do, particularly if they're working, they'll take a week off and they'll send out hundreds of resumes and do all that work. And then they say, well, I looked, I sent out 100 resumes. I've been looking for 6 months. And I'll say, no, you looked 6 months ago.
Yes.
You're better off saying, I've got, with everything else going on in my life, all I have is an hour a week to look for my job search. Then spend your hour, but that allows the ball to move forward. So that may mean I can only send out 2 resumes this week. Well, next week I'm going to follow up on those 2 resumes and maybe send out 1 more. And you've got to keep kind of that forward motion. So you can't always go for the touchdown in the past. Sometimes you go for the first down. Sometimes you just go for the yardage. But you gotta do what makes sense given what's going on in the rest of your life.
I guess it's sort of like at the end of the day, you ask yourself, have I done anything to move forward today? Have I done anything positive? Is that sort of the question you ask at the end of the day?
Well, it doesn't even have to be in the day because, again, it may be the kind of thing where I only have Saturday morning because I work late and I've got children at home and I've got other commitments. So,
Okay.
but whatever the time is you put aside, because if you don't make that concerted effort of Saturday mornings are going to be dedicated to this, then every moment that you're not spending on your job search, you're beating yourself up about. So if you take the stress out of your week. I don't have time to do it during the week. I'm not going to bother during the week, but I am going to do it on Saturday and then make that happen. So set realistic goals for yourself. It's sort of like weight loss. You don't wake up and say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds this week. You say, you know what, this week I'm not going to eat fried Oreos. You know what I mean? You have to do it in small, manageable steps so that you can build on your own success.
Kathleen Brady, our guest on This Week in America. Our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Kathleen Brady is the author of the book, Get a Job, 10 Steps to Career Success. Very easy to read, laid out. There's plenty of room in there where you can take notes. You can go back and refer to different phases of your particular job search. Her website is careerplanners.net. Something interesting when you're looking, and we sort of overlook this, you really focus on the emotional well-being. And I think you just alluded to that as you're talking. The state of mind, how important is that in a job search?
Oh, your state of mind is crucial because at the time, particularly if you've just lost your job or you feel so vulnerable, you're putting yourself out there. There is rejection built into this process. And so you've really got to take care of yourself and remind yourself why you're a worthy person and why you're successful. Particularly, again, if you've lost your job. A lot of people lost their job and they think all of a sudden, I'm a loser, life is terrible and nobody wants me. Well, if that's your mindset going into the job hunt, if you truly believe nobody wants me because I screwed this up and I'm a loser, that's what you're presenting, that's what people will see. But if you can say, this was not a personal decision, there's financial things going on at the company, I'm moving on, it was a great experience, this is what I learned, and now I'm going to do something different, that's much more positive. Positive energy gets positive energy. Negative energy is just... it gets you nowhere.
There are so many things to talk about. Kathleen will be back on future programs to talk about, and we'll go through the 10 different steps. I want to talk about something that's sort of new, that people are incorporating emails in their job search. And you point out that, keep in mind, email is really a form of correspondence. Sometimes we sort of like text via email, and we're not real clear, we're not real formal. And you're saying you really need to treat it as though it's just a legitimate, formal form of communication.
Absolutely. You need to have a salutation, for example. People oftentimes don't do that. They won't put dear so-and-so. They, particularly young people, don't use proper grammar. They're using little emoticons and things like that. It's a professional correspondence, so you really want to make sure that it's a professional correspondence, grammar is correct, sentence structure, spacing, capitalize appropriately, all of those things. Otherwise, it gives an impression of somebody who's sloppy, careless, and that's not the impression you want to make to any prospective employer.
Well, you talked about the telephone, saying basically the telephone is underutilized and that's our friend. Do we stay away from actually trying to talk to somebody on the telephone?
Yeah, I think people are afraid to use the phone, and everybody kind of hides behind email. And I think sometimes the quickest way to get to somebody is through the telephone. What I suggest to folks is maybe send an email first and then follow up with a phone call, particularly if you've been out of touch with someone for a while. So, you don't want the person on the other end of the phone going, Kathy, who?
Right.
If they've seen my email, they'll go, oh, yeah, okay, now I know why she's calling. But the other thing, if you're going to call people on the phone, before you launch into your story, you do a little bit of chit-chat, and then you have to say, is this a good time to chat? I'd love a few minutes of your time. Because if they're in the middle of something and you just launch into your thing, they're not really listening. They're just thinking, how can I get off the phone because I got this deadline I got to take care of. So, be respectful, but say, is this is this a good time to speak? Or, is there a better time I could call you back and set up a phone appointment?
Well, in keeping with that, you say it's good to have a script so you've got some idea when you actually talk to somebody at the other end where you're going with the conversation and how you're going to get there.
Even if you're getting a voicemail, because the worst voicemails are those rambling voicemails where you say the same thing 3 times or you just keep talking. You want to be succinct and to the point, whether you've got a live person or you've got an email. And if you're a little bit nervous, having some talking points in front of you is the best way to go.
We've got a couple minutes left in the program. Let's talk briefly about resume, because you hear so many conflicting opinions out there on what you really need to put in a resume. How long should it be, and what information do we need to put into that resume?
The advice I always give people about resumes is, if you hear anybody giving you advice that says you should always or you must never, the advice is bad. Because it depends. It absolutely depends on your situation. There's no set how long it should be, particularly these days because everything's electronic. If it's 2 pages, it's fine. If you've got 2 pages worth of material, you want 2 pages. But if you're just adding fluff then it's not worth it. You want to be succinct. You want things to stand out. You want to use bolds well. But there's no one right piece of advice on what your resume ought to look like. The key is lead with your strengths, make it scannable, and use keywords that will pop out of the page for the employer. You've got to tell your story in the language of the employer or the industry that you're applying to.
You talk about the importance of those words in the book, which is Get a Job, 10 Steps to Career Success. In doing that, you say, because sometimes we hustle through things, we do the email. You're saying before we send it out, legitimately looking for a job, send it to a friend, let them make sure that it's computer friendly. They can open it and actually read it.
Right, absolutely. And sometimes, you know exactly what you're trying to say, but if you're editing while you're writing, there's an extra word in there, the spacing isn't right. And I am notoriously bad at that. I am the worst proofreader, and it's very hard to proofread your own stuff. So send it to a friend or a colleague, or work with a coach, somebody who's going to look at your stuff before you send it out. Because again, that it sounds so silly, but when there are hundreds of applicants for a position, they're looking for reasons to weed people out. So if you've got typos and issues like that, it's easy to, they'll throw you in the no pile even if you've got great skills.
With us on the program today has been Kathleen Brady, author of the book Get a Job, 10 Steps to Career Success. You're listening to This Week in America. The website for the program is thisweekinamerica.us. You can get information on Kathleen at our website. Her website is careerplanners.net, and the book, Get a Job, 10 Steps to Career Success, is available all across the country. You can go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com as well. Kathleen, thank you for joining us on the program. So many more things to talk about. We will have you back, and we will pick it up from there and go forward. Many more things to talk about, including, I really wanted to talk about it today. We'll have to pick this up. Dress for success. You hear people saying that. Yet with all this casual business attire, I'm not even sure what dress for success means anymore.
Yeah, that's a tough one for a lot of people.
We will tease the next program with that. Much more when Kathleen is back with us again. The book is Get a Job by Kathleen Brady, 10 Steps to Career Success. The website is careerplanners.net. You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.